Hey everyone, the original Habanero Shaker here once again, coming at you from the original Habanero Shaker headquarters. And today I wanted to go over the value proposition of the original Habanero Shaker and cover a couple other points as well. 20 years ago when I 22 years ago when I first created the original Habanero Shaker, I was getting my peppers from the only commercial grower in the United States, and they sent the peppers to me pre-ground, but they were rather a large flake. And I asked them if they could grind them a little bit further, and they said no, they couldn't. So what I did is I found a commercial coffee grinder and started regrinding the peppers through that commercial coffee grinder, and slowly hit on the particular type of or size of flake that I like to use. The original Habanero Shaker contains a custom flake that for probably more than 2 years I played around with. First of all, if it's too small, if it's ground more to a powder, it not only will cake up in the shaker, and something like a silicon dioxide would have to be added, which we don't want. We don't need any extraneous chemicals in our food, no matter how safe they supposedly are. But also what would happen is the fine powder would get in the crevices of your tongue and could create, for some people, an uncomfortable feeling of heat, an uncomfortable burning. And so with too large of a flake, the same thing can happen. You can have a flake sit on a certain part of your tongue or mouth for too long and release too much for some people, capsaicin, and it once again can create that uncomfortable burn. So I finally hit on the perfect size for a flake that was not too small, not too big, and that's what I put into the original Habanero Shaker. Now, fast forward, we were off the market for many years. Fast forward to today, when I talked to my manufacturer about flake size, he said, yeah, here you go, how's this? And I said, no, it needs to be smaller. And so he kind of acted like, gee, is that really a big deal? Okay, here's something smaller. I said, no, it needs to be smaller. And so he sent me another sample. I said, no, it needs to be bigger. And he was so frustrated with me, this whole company. He told me, he said, I've never spent so many months getting something so right for a customer. And I said, well, it's critical. It's got to be perfect. This is my passion. This isn't just a product. This is something that I created for myself, for family, for friends. I've cut no corners. I wanted it to be perfect. And so that's what we've done. Finally got the exact grind size that I wanted. The sifter fitment, which is the thing with the holes on the top, they needed to be a certain size. The cap I wanted a certain way. So we finally got it all into one package, and we're able to relaunch now just a few weeks ago. The value proposition is what I wanted to talk about here today in particular. And I had a person recently who they said, well, I'll just make my own. I said, okay, that's great, wonderful. They reported back to me. They said habaneros are paper thin when they dry, so they don't weigh much. Once they bought the amount of peppers that they actually really needed, they realized that they had spent $8 to $10. Then on top of that, they had to dry them. Now, if they're not dried right, if there's too much moisture in them, they're going to mold. If they're dried out too much, they just become brittle and turn into a powder at the bottom of by the time you get to the bottom of one of these. Another thing that is you lose that buttery, smoky flavor if they're not dried just right. So the drying process is very critical. So this person, they had to buy all these habaneros. They realized they spent way more money than they thought. Then they had to dry them just right. Then they came to the grinding, and so they put them into a coffee grinder, and like I experienced more than 20 years ago, they went running out of the back of the house. Sounds a little graphic, I know, but practically coughing blood, because that's what happened to me. You get this powder down in your lungs, and it's not good. So you've got to buy not just one of those cheap, $2 masks that you can get, with the little elastic cord on. No, you need. I ended up buying. I think it cost me around $79 for a ultra high intensity, blah blah blah, OSHA this, certified for fine paint fumes and other noxious fumes. And that was the only thing that would absolutely stop the powder from getting through and into my lungs so that I could grind. So anyways, long story short, this person that wanted to make their own, they said that wasn't worth it. He goes, I could have just paid, what you charge, $12.95 for an original habanero shaker, and it could have been done. He goes, yeah, I'm done with trying to make my own. So there's a lot of benefits to the in the price here. A lot has gone in. Hopefully I've shared a little bit today about everything that's gone on into making this the top-notch product that it had to be for me to put my name on it, for me to be comfortable, for me to feel it was the best thing for me when I use it. I use it daily, and you name it, anything, fruit, steak, fish, burritos. I mean, there's almost no kind of food, Italian, pizza. I don't know if I've found a food yet, but I don't appreciate and love the original habanero shaker on. So with that, I want to remind you to start shaking and be happy, and we'll talk to y'all real soon. Thanks for listening.